Hi, I'm Kelsey Kinnear and I'm a dietitian with Boone Hospital Center, and today I'm going to make loaded sweet potato nachos. So to start, we're going to slice the sweet potatoes. I like to slice them pretty thin, like 1/4 of an inch or smaller even. You want to have your oven preheating at this point to about 425, pretty hot because you want them to be crispy. Alright, so now I'm going to take the sweet potatoes, and I like to use an oil that can withstand a pretty high temperature in the oven, so I wouldn't really use the kind of oil I'd make for salad dressings like extra virgin olive oil. I would use, there's a lot of options, but this one's kind of cool. It's avocado oil. You can get a spray version, which I think helps kind of cut down on some of the added fat, you know, because you want to evenly distribute it, but you don't want to just soak it. So I just kind of like do it a little bit, and then I'll spray it again as I put it on the pan. But you want to get a good coating to make sure everything's nice and crispy, but you don't want to drown them. This is 2 small sweet potatoes, or you could use 1 big one. Okay, so I've put the oil on and it's nicely coated. Now I'm going to add a few seasonings, and the nice thing about this recipe is there's no added salt, so it's pretty heart healthy. I actually originally got it from the American Heart Association. So I will do about 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of chili powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of paprika. And then you just sprinkle it in there, evenly coat it. You want to coat it really good. And then you can put it on a foil lined sheet, but I'm using this thing called a silpat, and it's nice because you don't have to, you can reuse it. I use it a lot for baking cookies too. But yeah, then just evenly coat it. It smells kind of like French fry seasoning, so that's kind of what we're doing. And then spread out really thin. I mean, like not stacking, because you don't want to overcrowd it, because that'll kind of steam it more. So this recipe is nice because it's 1 large sweet potato or 2 small ones coat the pan pretty well. You don't have to worry about using 2 pans, but you could if you end up doing a bigger batch. Just stick it in the oven for 10 minutes, flip them over, and about 10 more minutes on the other side. You can kind of watch and see how crispy it gets. So we have the sweet potatoes out of the oven. They're pretty crispy. I mean, if they're a little soft, it's not the end of the world. They still taste really good, but try to get them as crispy as you can. I'm going to top them with some red beans, and I made sure to get the no salt added versions and rinse them off. I use about 1/2 can. And then I used some Rotel no salt added because it's a little spicy, and I strained it and used 1/2 can of this. And then 1/2 of an avocado and some chicken. And then I'll top it with some cheese. So you got beans, and just do it however. I mean, you can do this on a plate, you don't, but you could put your plate in the oven to like, you know, melt the cheese. All we're doing really is melting cheese at this point. Everything's already cooked. But I'm putting some Rotel, just kind of spreading it out. And yes, I'm using my hands, but that's okay. Get messy. All right, and then you could do this. You could do the tomatoes and avocado last if you wanted to, or you could do it. I don't mind having them a little hot. So canned tomatoes are fine. You could use fresh tomatoes, and when you heat up tomatoes, you actually absorb, like utilize the lycopene more so than if they were just raw. But I don't care if you eat raw. Eat your tomatoes however you want. Just eat tomatoes. They're great. Get lots of veggies. I like this recipe because it has a lot of veggies and a lot of high fiber carbs, so it's good to get some carbs at each meal. But like beans and sweet potatoes and avocados all have carbs. But they're great sources of carbs. They're not added sugars, and they're not super processed. So I'm just gonna put about 1/3 of a cup, which is a serving of cheese. And this cheese isn't fat-free, but you could totally use fat-free because, I mean, you're taking out the saturated fat, which isn't as good for your heart. It can raise your LDL cholesterols. But I use the full fat and use sharp cheddar because you don't need as much. It's flavorful. So I'm gonna stick this in the oven and melt it off, and then we'll be done. All right, there you have it. It's got a lot of good healthy fats with the avocado, lean protein from the chicken and the beans, and a little from the cheese, and lots of good high fiber beans and sweet potatoes, and some veggies in there. So hopefully you guys like it. If you want the full recipe, it's on boone.org, and thanks for watching.